Okay, recording now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is 136, I believe, of Mind Heist podcast.
It sure is.
You know, bro, I asked you to post that thing, for people to chat with me.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I spoke to like 6-7 people, and I think all of them, no, not all of them, but quite a few were Mind Heist listeners.
Okay.
So that was good. One brother, he said his feedback is to get more guests.
Yeah. Boring.
We're boring. That's the problem. But yeah, that was good, bro. It's good to see the kind of people listening and et cetera, alhamdulillah. Listen, yeah. So what's this? What's this topic? What's this question? You know who sent the email in, bro? It's the one and only.
Absolutely. It's got to be.
The one and only. Okay, so we're going to deal with this, inshallah. One question, one email that came in. And brother said, Salaam alaikum, guys. You heard of a brother called Mehdi Tijani? He's got quite a lot of content on YouTube in regards to marriage, red pill, human behavior, etc. I recently came across his stuff and found it very interesting. Just wanted to know your thoughts and if you've listened to any of his stuff. So that's today's topic, bro. We might just call this topic just red pill. That's it.
Ooh,
Nothing
I'm
else.
having a look at his channel because
Oh, you don't know it?
I've never watched this. Well, I think I came across one video a while ago, which I think I mentioned before.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Well, I think we shouldn't talk about him. We should talk about red pill, maybe, right? It's kind of a topic of the moment. A lot of people have been making videos about it, and obviously being someone kind of interested in masculinity is something that I know a little bit about. I read a few books. Anyway, do you know what red pill is, bro?
Kind of, but I feel like it's...
Let's start with what is it? What do you know? Like, what have you heard?
So it kind of falls into... I mean, let's talk about the original terminology, where the original term comes from.
Because that's quite a sick term, actually.
Yeah, the original thing is it originated from the Matrix movies.
Yes.
Specifically the first Matrix movie. And for those who've never seen the Matrix, essentially, the long and short of it is that the world's been taken over by machines. And machines need batteries, and they use human beings as batteries. So they've taken over the planet, and they've plugged up all of the human beings on the planet into these kind of test tube battery things. And to keep them docile, they have plugged them in to the back of the head, and they simulate life for them. So to the extent that the life that we're in now is actually a simulation, and we're all batteries feeding these machines. And the main character is approached by people who have broken free within the simulation, that know that they're in a simulation, and he offers him 2 pills, and says to him, hey, take the blue one and you can carry on living in this simulation. Although at the time
ignorance is bliss. Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss. Or take the red pill and you'll be exposed to the realities of what's going on.
No, you have to say what he said, bro. You know what he said? He said, or you could take the red pill and see how far this rabbit hole goes.
Oh, there you go. And then
cue
the music, and there goes the movie, picks the red pill. Now, a lot of people, including, funnily enough, the people that created or directed that movie, did you know that they were the Wachowski brothers, but now they're the Wachowski sisters? Those are the directors.
Heard about that.
So, yeah, they are very angry that their terminology has been hijacked. So that gives you an idea of what the red pill is these days. You know, we got a new YouTube comment as we are recording. Funny that.
That's so distracting, man.
I know. I need to get rid of it. But yeah, see, Mind Heist, just pop in, bro. Left, right, center. Anyway, so it's kind of been hijacked. So although it's meant to be like, unplug from the system and the reality and find out the reality of things, it has been hijacked, I think, by like right wing sort of like Trump kind of people, people that vote for Trump and stuff. That's when I started seeing it myself kind of used, the red hat and the red this and then it kind of went into this with that comes this kind of like Bible Belt / fundamentalist Christian evangelical traditionalist conservative. These are kind of the key words I'm associating with it. So in line with masculinity, it would be non-Muslims, generally Christians, that kind of want to reinstate traditional Christian marital values and family values, and they consider that the society itself has been indoctrinated with this liberal agenda or this feminist agenda, and they're fighting back at it by sort of unplugging from that system. That's my interpretation. What about you?
Yeah, I think I understood that basically being red pill, taking the red pill is waking up to the reality that women have silently taken over society, and women now hold more power than like they used to or they should. And it's almost like you're saying, the mainstream culture is kind of all like yes, women this, empower women. But the dark side of that, if you like, is that, oh no, now women can like marry you and divorce you a month later, and then she gets pregnant from you and take money from your whole life. The legal system is against men, the work thing is against men, all of this, And so it's like, take the red pill, wake up to the reality that we're under an attack, and that women are kind of using this leverage they have over us now, and we have to kind of, it's kind of linked to that men going their own way. Like, we have to take back our position in society. We used to have more honor, we used to have more pride, more power, whatever it is, and we need to take that back by taking the red pill, not just going with the mainstream, the blue pill, but actually waking up to the fact of this is reality, right? So that's why I understand. I've never actually heard anyone define it, so this is obviously just coming from my kind of picking up on pieces here and there. But also I think it's to do with the idea of it links to so many underground clubs, isn't it, right? So it links to the men going their own way club. It links to actually the pickup artist scene as well. Which is kind of like disgusting group of men who they literally.
Are you referencing those little documentaries on Vice? And there was another one of these like really obscure pickup artists that would. Is that where you're getting it from?
I didn't know about the Vice thing, but even people like I think his name is Neil Strauss. He wrote a book called The Game, and it's all about this world of pickup artists, right? And it's really disgusting, bro. Basically, the idea is, and part of this is linked to red pill, like I'm saying, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The idea is that we don't want to. We're not going to marry women anymore because there's nothing for us to gain in marriage, and therefore we're just going to get what we want from women, which is basically to sleep with them, right?
Right.
And so therefore we're going to learn all the psychological and communication hacks and tricks to convince them to sleep with us, and then we're not going to have any long-term relationships with women, kind of thing. Right.
So I can see that being part of it, but also like I tend to associate it more with like the first person I think of when I think red pill is I think like Elliot Hulse. That's who I think red pill.
Yeah, and it's a vague definition, isn't it, bro? It's like fluid. So that's what I'm saying. When I say these things are linked, it doesn't mean everyone who is involved in one part will be involved in the other. I
think maybe I think there's two sides of it. Then I think there's going to be the atheistic side of the red pill, which is very much carnal desires and going down that route of just animalistic kind of domination of men, so like males in the animal kingdom will tend to be the dominant one, so let's just follow that 100%. But then there's also the traditional conservative Christian red pill movement, which is like,
you see that I never heard of that, bro. I never heard of red pill and Christianity being linked at all.
So that's what I identify with, because I see, when I think red pill, I think Bible Belt America, right-wing Americans who are very conservative Christians who are trying to unplug from liberal society and left-wing society. And Elliot Hulse has become sort of a poster child for that, at least in my YouTube recommendations.
Really? I see how he could be linked with it in the sense where he's about masculinity, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that he's like kind of a family guy, that's kind of not so red pill anymore, But again, it's a bit loose, so that's why when we talk about it, we have to be careful not to like generalize too much, because there are different pockets within it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I've seen people even like talk about Jordan Peterson and him being like quote unquote red, but like the reason I say this is because I came across some articles about algorithms and how there was this particular article that was talking about how like it just like TikTok and Facebook and whatever push red pill content all the time to you, and then the red pill content was this stuff. It was like all these finance gurus and trading gurus, and then masculinity stuff, and like this, motivational quotes, all this sort of stuff. This is all what I kind of associated with. Yeah. But it'd be interesting to see, actually, if I just go, because there's funny memes, isn't there? If I just put red pill starter pack.
Okay.
Because you always get pictures of like.
That's the summary of what it is, basically.
Yeah, this is a summary of what it is. So if I find.
So what is it? What do you see?
Open this one because it's a bit more. Here we go.
Okay.
Nothing too explicit.
So,
on here.
Okay, so what you got is Joe Rogan podcast, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. What else?
Got,
Say no to soy. That's not popping out.
I've heard that word.
Okay,
Absolutely.
which is like the whole thing of soy creates estrogen, right, in your body, which is the female hormone, makes you beta, makes you a beta male.
Beta male, here you go, beta order. You can see though, there's some finance stuff here. You got affiliate marketing. You got I could never be a 9-to-5 wage slave, bro. Drop shipping.
Yes.
Bitcoin. I'm a store. It's a store of value.
Yeah.
But then you've got like keto. I'm assuming this is a keto diet. Like right now, I'm feeling like they're I'm aligning with all this stuff. Not all of it, but like
what I'm seeing here is it's a lot of stuff that young men are into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like men who are actually driven and slightly masculine versus, what society tried to make us out to be, basically.
Yeah, and I think it has been memeified in a particular way. Like there's definitely a trend, even subconsciously, without aligning yourself to anything. Like without saying I've been red pilled, I could definitely say that I've explored a lot of these things. I've definitely done keto. I've definitely done deadlifts. I've definitely listened to like the stoicism books and stuff. Bitcoin. Don't even get me started. Drop shipping. That's me to a T. Like I feel like I've done all of this stuff.
Yeah. But that's interesting. You see the bottom one. It says not left or right, just free. So it's this kind of. They're not really right wing. They're more like libertarian. Like kind of in the middle, you could say, whatever. You know those flags? You know what those flags is about?
No, I'm not sure.
You know what it is, yeah? Because I've consumed some of their stuff. Basically, these like American red pill guys, they say that American women should not be touched whatsoever. They're done. Like they're too feminist. We need to go to East Europe where the women are more traditional. And that all those flags are Eastern European countries.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sexual marketplace. So is that referencing the sort of thing you were saying earlier about the pickup artists and stuff?
No, I think that term, basically sexual marketplace, is that they see themselves as being a kind of in a hierarchy in a sexual marketplace where they need to, the higher in the marketplace they go, the higher the value they are to women.
Right.
You get it? So if you're a high value kind of man, you're going to be able to attract the kind of best women in theory. And but another thing, bro, which I definitely wanted to mention is if you go to that the previous one we were looking at, there is the Rational Male, right? Which is the red book there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the book by Rollo Tomasi, who is kind of one of the big thought leaders in this red pill movement. And he kind of wrote this book summarizing all the Reddit stuff and everything, all the discussions that were going on that created this kind of movement.
Oh, okay.
And so he wrote that book, right? Now, when I was looking into masculinity, I started by going to these books that I'd heard of, and I wanted to see what the people say, right? So this book, I got the audio book, put it on, I went to the gym. Bro, I was less than half an hour, I had to turn it off. Because it really, bro, it was really disgusting. I couldn't, I'm not even someone who's have a reaction or this, that, but it's so disgusting the way he's talking about women, the way he's talking. Basically, they see women as, they're very bitter, and they've got ironically they've got actually a victim mindset rather than like a leadership thing. They got a victim mindset where women are basically ruining us and women are the enemy, and we need to kind of just exploit them and take what we want from them and give them nothing. That was like a lot of what he was saying in just the intro of the book. So when I heard that, I was like, yo, actually I think that was the book that made me think, look, for my masculinity book, I don't want to go to these kuffar. I'm actually just going to go straight to the Sirah and stuff. And that was the decision where I'm like, look, I'm not basing my book on anything kuffar say. Yeah. Obviously, there's one book I can mention that I like, which a non-Muslim wrote, which is The Way of the Superior Man. But all the other stuff, I'm like, I can't take much from that. I actually just prefer the Quran and Sunnah stuff that I found. So that's interesting, considering you have Muslims now who are very much following this movement, the Red Pill movement, and they're kind of parroting what the non-Muslims say, and they obviously not filtering it too much through Islam.
Yeah. So
yeah, go ahead.
It's just I see a few people sort of pointing at others and saying, "Oh, they're red pillars and they're red pillars." Like I came across, I think Daniel Haqiqaju put up a video a couple of weeks ago.
He did,
maybe 2 hours long, saying the truth about red pill.
Yeah.
And I think I watched maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and I fell asleep.
Yes.
And then there was another one. I think what happens is maybe, you could say something like, as a Muslim about, I don't know, a man's position in society is to provide for the family. A woman's position is to take care of the family at home, right? And then because that aligns with red pill culture, suddenly you are touted as being a red pill Muslim.
Exactly, yeah.
I think that's more what I've seen, as opposed to anybody saying I'm a red pilled Muslim or I'm a red, do you know what I mean? Or aligning to that first and foremost. But at the same time, the fact that if this is what it is, like what we went through just now, that starter pack is what it is. I think there is definitely a phenomenon of men naturally being inclined to those things in like a journey of self-discovery. And I think,
no doubt.
I think maybe, because I can't say I've actively found those things through becoming part of a group of individuals and that we're all like sharing that stuff with each other.
Yeah.
These are things I've kind of just picked up on from other people, whatever. So I think there is something there missing in men, and that has led them to search this kind of thing.
I think what we looked at there, some of those things, like most normal men, I would say, are into that stuff. Yeah, a lot of that stuff, right? Like me and you, we just looked at that. We're like, yeah, tick box, right? Yeah. That's fine. That's normal, right? And that's like, yeah. So that stuff is normal. I think the fundamentals, what I understand, the fundamentals of red pill though, because we don't want to mix just being a normal man and what you might be interested in as a man and the red pill movement. The red pill movement, what is unique about it, which is different to just being a man, is certain concepts. And I think that's what we should actually go through, right? So for example, the concept of the sexual marketplace.
Right.
And so this concept for them is very important, and they're always bringing it up. And it's this idea that men and women, they're judging each other according to certain criteria. And if you want to get the best women, you have to be higher up in the hierarchy. It also links to the idea of alpha male, right? What's an alpha male? It comes from like wolves and dogs and stuff, where there's the alpha male who gets access to the best females, right?
Yes.
Obviously, transferring that to humans is a bit problematic, but that's the concept, right? So the whole thing is that you as a man, you're in a marketplace, right? You're a commodity almost, yeah? And in order to get the best females, you need certain things. Now, of course, being American, a lot of the people involved in this movement, the criteria they talk about is what? Is having a lot of money, is like being able to like talk smooth, I suppose, have charisma and stuff. It's being like fit and healthy and these kind of things, right? But it's very much, what I found is it's very much money focused. Yeah. Like, yeah, you got to have the big job. You got to have the business. You got to have the clothes. You got to dress well. You got to, and so, and why is it, by the way, that they're interested in these things and developing themselves? It's actually, ironically, it's to please women. It's to try and attract women. Yeah. Which maybe later we'll talk about if that's, what we should be doing or not. But this is the first big concept, is sexual marketplace. The fact that there's a marketplace and we're kind of competing for spaces in that marketplace, and we're valuing ourselves according to what? According to mainly how we look. So it's like, it's this cliche, this stereotype that men, all they care about is young, beautiful women. And all that women care about is fit, healthy, rich men. Right.
Yes.
And therefore, according to this sexual marketplace idea, if you're a poor man, you're useless, you're worthless. Right. Even if you're like the best worshipper of Allah, you have a strong character, you're a hard worker, according to them, you're low in the marketplace, and so you're like kind of beta male rubbish, yeah. So this is the first big concept is sexual marketplace. And you know, like the brother mentioned, like Mehdi, who has the YouTube channel, he like fully uses these terms a lot, right? And so that's like the first concept, I think, that is unique to Red Pill, you know.
Do you think then the reason it gets such bad stick is because there's such a focus on women, or the desire to obtain women, or whatever it is, or that relationship or whatever, then the most vocal is probably going to be the people that don't have access to relationships or haven't been able to get in a relationship, for example. So they're the most vocal in total of like touting this culture, and therefore it is then annoyed or, you know, exasperated the feelings of feminists and other people like, because I think for a normal man who is married, and especially Muslim men who are married and stuff, who don't necessarily have that problem, although we could say me and you, for example, although we could say certain aspects of this kind of thing is what we associate ourselves with, we're not really like touting and waving the flag about it, because we don't feel that kind of pressure or that kind of inadequacy that maybe some of these guys online may be feeling.
Well, exactly. The whole Red Pill culture is a culture of grievances. Yeah, the grievances of not being able to, quote unquote, access the women that they think they deserve. Yeah. Also, other grievances like getting divorced and losing half your wealth that you worked hard for because of the court system, whatever. Losing custody of your kids. These grievances. This is where it seems to come from. And exactly like you're saying, if you go on the forums, especially the original movement, you know, maybe I don't know when it started, maybe 10 years ago or something. You'll probably find a lot of men who lost custody of their kids. They went through a bad divorce. They were humiliated by a woman, or they were with a woman who was very like feminist and trying to dominate them and stuff like that. Didn't give the respect they felt, that a man would want, kind of thing. So I agree with you. I feel like, honestly, just to cut to the chase, I feel like Red Pill is literally just the men's version of feminism. It's very much victim mindset. It's not a mindset. It's not a movement of let's be this, let's do this. It's a movement of women are bad, let's blame women, let's be victims. You know, it's very much throwing the stones at the women, kind of thing, at the women, at feminism. And I'm not saying that this is the reason the movement has a lot of traction, is because there are real grievances. There are real grievances, me and you, we would probably say, look, we have issue with feminism. We have an issue with the court system, this and that. But the way that they seem to express their issues or suggest solutions, that's maybe where we would part ways.
I think it is still very vague then. I think maybe a lot of the labeling, labeling red pill or red pillars, I think is still coming from liberal feminists or those outside of that kind of agenda, because I'm really struggling to interpret it within
grasp
that context.
Like what exactly it is.
I keep going back to the whole conservative Christian red pillar. So it's really difficult for me to kind of get out of that. The only way I can get out of that is if I'm thinking like fedora wearing sort of nerdy kind of pick-up artist kids on the internet that think they are the bee's knees or smarter than everybody. But then again, you know what? I think what it is I think it's become an overarching label for men who are sort of dissatisfied with what masculinity has become and where masculinity has been put into society. So it's been compartmentalized, like patriarchy is compartmentalized into this particular area where men don't feel like they belong anymore, and they've lost a lot of their... But do you think, so to go back to your previous point then, and to link this in with Islam a bit, I've always been sort of convinced that without the worship of a higher being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without the worship, that sort of inclination of a higher purpose, then men generally focus their entire energy and aspirations towards women. So I honestly feel like, the reason why, there's a motivation to go to the gym and get healthy is because to please women. The reason to get wealthy and to become successful is to obtain women. I think everything that a man does outside of trying to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you're not focused on that and that isn't your number one priority, then you default to women. You know, that becomes your secondary, your primary worship, actually, if you don't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think that is, at least my perception. Have you found that in your kind of studies of masculinity? Do you think that's what drives people more?
Yeah, bro, definitely. Like, in the end, those that don't follow a religion, like, in quite a strict way, their default God is going to be their desires. Right. And for men, big part of the desire is women, right? And there's many aspects, I think, to that desire. It's not just like what you might call the physical. It's the validation, you know, that a man might get from woman. It's the respect he might get from woman. It's also the social status that he gets from being with a certain woman, blah, blah, right? But I agree with you, bro. And even if you look throughout history, many men have fallen astray because of being distracted by women. Right. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing to women. I'm saying that everything should be in its right place, you know? So everyone knows that you're a Muslim man, you have your wife, you need to give her rights, you need to treat her the best, but you know always that Allah's above your wife.
Absolutely.
You know, everything in its right place. And I think,
you know what?
Yeah, go ahead.
It makes me think, you know, of a sad theoretical story or hypothetical story of a man who has done everything the red pill has taught him. You know, he has got all the money now. He is independent. He's strong. He's healthy. He's whatever. Yeah. And that's it now. All the women want him. He feels like he's achieved it all. Yeah. And then he meets one woman, right? He meets this one woman that he simply just cannot obtain, cannot get, whatever it is, and just like that, he's become a slave to a woman again, and suddenly women again. You know, all of that work is down the drain, and once again, you're not made yourself independent of women, or you don't need women, or whatever it is. You've gone a whole full circle, and you've come back right where you started because you once again met that roadblock, and suddenly you've kind of just become a slave to women again in a particular way, because from going from like, okay, the feminist agenda has taken over the world and we're all slaves to this feminist agenda, you've then just shifted and become a slave to your desires, which by extension becomes a slave to women again.
Yeah, ironic, isn't it? It's ironic. Yeah. It's kind of like how we say like feminists are obsessed with women becoming like men.
Right.
And it's like
slaves to men again.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. It's like they're slaves to the criteria of what a man is.
Right.
You know, it's like Margaret Thatcher, feminist figure, right? But she had to deepen her voice. She had to change who she was to be prime minister, you know, or she felt she needed to. So that's why I say it's the men's version of feminism. And I think a lot of people would not feel comfortable with that. Like, you know, imagine a Muslim man who does feel like there's this feminist agenda. He'd be like, nah, man. And I would say to that, I would say, like, I agree with most of the grievances that the men express who are interested in the red pill movement. Like, I agree with the grievances. I just don't agree with the what happens after that, you know?
Right.
For example, you know, the whole, bro, think of some of the Sahaba, man. Like, according to these guys, they would be losers. Right. But we know they're the winners. Like, literally, probably, yeah. And my knowledge of the Sahaba and their lives and is not extensive enough for me to say this like in detail now. But you know the 10 promised paradise?
Yeah.
According to the criteria of this movement, would they be like up there in the sexual marketplace? And would they be like one of these like high, what they say high value man? They probably wouldn't, bro. Like, Ibn Mas'ud, bro, his legs were so skinny. He was like skinny guy, yeah? Or the, what do they call it? Ahl al-Sufa, you know, the people who just lived in the masjid. You know, they didn't have much money. They're following the Prophet ﷺ around. They're right, like Abu Hurairah, they're writing the hadith down, or they're memorizing hadith, I believe. Yeah. It's like, are these guys not amazing? They're amazing. They're what we're looking to be, right? I'm not saying that you should purposely not like make a living or get married or whatever, but I'm saying what they ended up being is people of Jannah. Like literally people of Jannah, worshippers of Allah. And this is our purpose in life. Our purpose in life is not to write down what women are attracted to and try and be the extreme version of that.
Yeah.
That's not the purpose, Yani.
At least I still feel like they would be though, by the concept that I'm looking at the red pillars as. Like,
Okay.
and it goes back to what I said earlier about like Elliot Hulse, for example. He did a video Q&A thing where he was working out and people asked him, I think I mentioned this, might mention this on here. And somebody asked him about what he thinks about what's going on in Afghanistan and the Taliban, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, he's going to say that he likes them. I know he's going to say that he likes them.
Yeah.
Just because I know that's his mindset.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what he said. He was like, oh, these guys are amazing. Like they're kids and they fought and, you know, their fathers died in the wars and stuff. And now they've grown up and they're avenging their fathers and they don't let their kids watch porn. And that's why they're super strong and this and that. And they're traditionalists, whatever. So I was just like, well, that kind of reaffirms my understanding that this red pill movement is about attaching yourself to, or detaching yourself from a kind of materialist kind of like, you know.
So that's stuff I would agree with, bro, no doubt.
Yeah. It reminds me of Fight Club, bro. Remember, like the first time I ever came across anything like that was Fight Club. Because if you look at the book, originally Fight Club book, it was a commentary on this kind of thing. It was
it was the whole thing of like,
men are dissatisfied with the way the world is around them.
You go to work, you go home, you sleep, you die, and repeat. You know.
And there's a clip in the movie where the two characters, and no spoilers here, obviously, but they are on a bus and they jump on a bus. It's very short, and on the bus is like a Calvin Klein advert of a man wearing like briefs, right? And Brad Pitt's like, "Oh, is that what a real man looks like?" And just that commentary kind of set the tone of what this whole film's about. It's about the dissatisfaction of men. And
that film is actually like full commentary on this.
Yeah.
It's very relevant today, even though it's, is it 30 years old? I don't know.
I think it might be good to read the book as opposed to the movie.
Yeah, the book would be even more like, no, you should definitely not watch the movie.
I was going to say.
Definitely not.
The book, I think it was originally a book, so that's why I'm mentioning it.
And the book probably would be even deeper with the concepts.
Absolutely. But that's kind of where, because when I discovered that, that's where I discovered that quite young, you know, in my early teens. I remember I came across the film in way before I was practicing when I was in Tunisia. And that's where my kind of interest in this whole masculinity thing maybe started. But it definitely does come up from a place of like, loss and a place of like
lack of
lost,
purpose.
Sorry. Yeah, exactly. And trying to identify, you know, male role models in your life and stuff like this. But
that's why, bro, like everything I'm talking about, I think the red pill movement, it's like, I don't know if this is the best analogy, but I'm going to try with it, okay? It's like you have Islam and you have the pure teachings of Islam, right? Now, out of those pure teachings, you have splinter groups, right? You have the Shia, you have the Ahmadiyya, you have the even the Baha'i, I think, which originally were Muslim, it came from Islam. You have the Nation of Islam. You have these splinter groups that come off it, right? I'm talking about the original teachings of Red Pill, yeah? That is what I'm saying that I kind of have a problem with. But the general people that would fall under the umbrella is much bigger than the people that following those principles. That's why I'm saying that the first concept is the sexual marketplace, you know. Another key concept is hypergamy, which is the concept that women only kind of marry up, or they only mate upwards in social status. So it's like a woman would never marry a man who earns less than her. A woman would never marry basically a man who is lower status than her, only higher status. And so it's like, if you want to get those, you know, high status women, then you need to be as high status as possible, blah, blah, blah. So it's interesting how you could probably draw analogies with capitalism and how the obsession with competition between men even, for these scarce resources, which are women, you know?
There's a documentary here called The Red Pill, basically, and it's a feminist journey into the men's rights movement.
Right.
Although it's got like a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes. I thought it was a book when I clicked on it, but it turns out it's a documentary.
Okay.
But that would be interesting to see what parts of this movement irritate feminists the most, you know? Because at least then that way, and also it would define a little bit of what the movement is. However, it came out in 2016, so it's a bit like, that feels a bit too early to me. But then again, that could have been the dawn of it.
I mean, when was The Rational Male published? Because that book really summarized the ideas, you know. The Rational Male.
Got good reviews, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a very popular book.
The top review is 5 stars. The second review is 1 star. So very divisive.
That's the book is 2013.
Okay. So maybe was it you that suggested that book? What was it called? Was it Tribe or something, or The Way of Men or something like that?
The Way of Men, yeah.
I think it was one of the first audiobooks I listened to.
Really?
In a few years, and yeah, I think if it is the one I remember, it kind of did veer into this kind of like caveman culture and hunter-gatherer society and kind of promoting all of that. And anyway, we've explored it a bit. What about the Muslim position on this? Because I can see that aspect of it would really appeal to a lot of Muslims, but then I do see, at least my exposure to a lot of Muslim guys online is through Twitter, getting to see what they think and what they talk about. And it tends to be the unmarried kind of guys that are like really using these terminologies like soy boy and cuck and God knows what else, right? And I've only ever used it in irony to kind of make fun of those people.
Well, I bet that's the first time you ever said those words aloud, isn't it?
Probably.
It's the type of stuff you only type on Twitter.
Yeah, this is it. So I'm like, I do look at it and I feel like, unfortunately, it does come from a lot of frustration.
Yeah.
There are some people online, on Twitter that I've seen for years and, still not married. And that's not to say there's a problem with that. What I'm saying is that a lot of their angst and anger comes from like issues about mahr, issues about trying to find somebody, issues about all these barriers that are set up. And then because of these barriers that are set up to get married and barriers that are set up from cultures and stuff, it is this lambasting and using all of this red pill terminology and red pill ideas to kind of critique this issue within the Muslim community that may not be exclusive to the Muslim community. And I don't know, maybe I felt like that, but I didn't feel... I must rightfully say that I didn't have, quote unquote, that kind of difficulty getting married, So would I have turned into one of those people if I was facing all those barriers?
Yeah, it's
maybe.
Possible.
And that's the only place I'm seeing it online. However, if this particular individual who's Mr. Tijani, I forgot his first name, and others, Mehdi Tijani and others that are doing videos, I don't know what their content is. Would you say it's traditional red pill content, or would you say it's just Muslim content with crossover elements?
I've only watched, I would say, 1 to 3 videos of his.
Okay, so it's hard to say.
However, I feel I got a decent flavor, and particularly because one of the videos I watched was him and Muhammad Hijab actually discussing these things. Because Muhammad Hijab actually... I feel like Muhammad Hijab wanted to do that live stream with him in order to kind of correct him because of some of the things he was saying were kind of contrary to the Muslim way of thinking, you could say.
Right.
Yeah. And what I understand from Mehdi is, well, a lot of the language, a lot of the attitude is definitely borrowed directly from the non-Muslims, basically.
Right.
It's not like it's you have the grievances that we talked about, the legit grievances. Yeah, it's not like you have that and then you say, okay, how do we deal with this? How do we discuss it? How do we fix it? Okay, let's look to Islam. Let's be grounded in Islam and then therefore grow the seeds and everything of a solution from there. It's not like that. It's like, I have grievances, legit grievances. Yeah. I'm going to go, because Red Pill, is talking about that, I'm going to go there. All these guys are non-Muslim. Their worldview is non-Muslim. And now I'm going to take all of that. I'm going to bring it to the Muslim sphere as a Muslim, as somebody saying Assalamu alaikum. But ultimately, what I felt was the ideas are ultimately just borrowed from the non-Muslims without filtering, without altering. And therefore, for example, one thing that I came across with this discussion with Muhammad Hijab is that the brother was he was saying that you shouldn't marry a previously married woman. Yeah,
Right,
or you should avoid them, or they're bad. Or in one clip, he said toxic waste about some of these sisters, and straight away we can say, "Come on, man! As basic Islam, we know you don't say that. You might, you might think that. Even if you think that, right or wrong, don't say it. Yani, this is your sister in Islam. We don't know, Anyway, using the language, it's not correct. And the reason I bring that as an example is because this is the exact type of thing that the non-Muslim red pill guys say. And so you're just copy pasting it as a Muslim without filtering it through Islam. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, and that stuff really does irritate me actually. And just hearing that, if that is what he said, it does anger me, because I just see it as another extension of childishness, that you can't figure out what a man is. You're still grasping at straws of trying to figure out, this is how I play the role of a man. To act as a man, I have to perform like this. It shouldn't be a performance in that state. It should be quite natural. If you're unplugged from everything and you're a man who's got responsibilities and you act upon those responsibilities correctly, then it should kind of come very naturally how to lead that kind of life and be a leader in your household. And I think for the man who hasn't figured it out yet, you are playing an act. You are trying to be something that you don't understand what it is.
Bro, the word you used is perfect. Yeah, performance.
Yeah. And this is it. It is like a method actor where you think you're going to go, all in on this particular role, that actually you've got the wrong script completely. That's not what it is. But another thing I've noticed, and to go back slightly, I read an article which might sound like a side point, but it was a commentary on how the dawah scene and Muslim speakers online and whatever, the content changed so much after 9/11, right? And onwards. So I started practicing, when I was 18, so about 10 years ago. And I used to watch a lot of older things then, so stuff that was kind of uploaded on YouTube from cassette tapes or video VHS and stuff like that. So the content was very much so pre-ISIS, but just after 9/11 or before 9/11. Basically, Muslims were a lot more open and vocal about stuff they were, they practiced, right? So whether it was masculinity, whether it was the role of a man, whether it was even jihad, fi sabilillah, things like this were very open and vocal. And then as you kind of progressed, the first big muter was 9/11. After 9/11, a lot of people got muted. That's what the article was talking about. So a lot of things that were a bit controversial weren't spoken about. And then when ISIS kind of came about and took over the world in terms of news media and people talking about it, it was another kind of re-emergence of the muting of the Muslim speaker on these certain issues or whatever. And I've noticed that a lot of quote unquote Muslim red pillars, or at least people I would associate with that, are very dissatisfied with a lot of speakers or shuyukh or whatever that have a platform, because they're not speaking about issues that would draw controversy. And, there is hikmah for some of them there, because, look at France, for example. An imam recited a particular verse from the Quran, and that was it. He was removed from his post, right? That's one extreme example. But then in others, there's this kind of I don't know, if there's a conference in a particular organization is running and it's got all male panel, right? There's an issue there, so we need to bring women on. And then, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that or right with that. I don't know, it's up to you to decide. But all of these kind of changes and things that are happening, and I think a lot of men are dissatisfied with the fact that they haven't got a voice. That's what I'm trying to get at. They haven't got a voice in the community anymore on these particular issues that are very much male-centric. Like jihad is male-centric. The role of a man and the role of a woman, the role of a man specifically is going to be male-centric, and his position and hierarchy in the family is male-centric. But actually, who's out there saying that and speaking it from the top of their lungs? And it goes back a little bit to what we spoke about in that knitting episode, doesn't it? Because I didn't see an issue with that initially, but then I when you put it in context, it's like, well, if all the men are doing this, why aren't the men showing the manly things that we should be doing, such as horse riding and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Now, ultimately, I feel like my response to that, at least initially, is, hey, the people are out there. You just need to find them. You just need to understand what content you want to consume, right? But I don't know what you think about that. Do you think that there's a muting of masculinity within the dawah scene? Or do you think it's just?
Bro, definitely.
Do you think so?
Bro, I'm like we said, yeah. Like, revolutions, movements, these kind of things, they come from a place of people not being satisfied in one way or another, right? The whole what's it called? The feminist beginning of the feminist movement. What's it called? Suffragettes.
Yes.
Suffragettes, flipping communism, all of that, yeah, comes from some sort of dissatisfaction. Likewise, this is coming from dissatisfaction. Having said that, we said, me and you, we might not fall into this camp just because, alhamdulillah, we're married and this and that, yeah. Having said that, I still personally, I feel frustration about a lot of these topics that these guys are upset about, I do feel that. And even, as inshallah soon you'll see in the book, I talk about the three main problems men are facing and therefore the Muslim family is facing, yeah. Number one is feminism. Number two is the state of the world in terms of, for example, physical labor not being valued anymore and blah, 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 yeah? And the whole feminist agenda, blah, 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 yeah? And the third thing I said, actually, which is interesting in this context of what people are saying now, I called it like alpha maleism, yeah? Which is this Hollywood performance of masculinity, yeah? And I said, these are three barriers, three problems to men finding their real place, their real purpose. And I forgot what you said and what I was bouncing off now.
No, oh God, now you made me forget as well.
But I was saying dissatisfaction. So I'm saying somebody who, alhamdulillah, married and this and that, I feel dissatisfaction with this stuff. I do feel it. And so all the brothers out there that feel they're happy to associate maybe with what Mahdi is saying and this and that, I feel you. I do feel you. And I do feel there are these barriers. Like, come on, we're Muslims. We should be able to talk about polygyny without all this hoo-ha. We should be able to talk about the wife has to obey the husband. We should be able to say these things, there is a censoring, there is a muting, and we could, who knows what the exact reasons are, right? But definitely the du'at, you will not find them, for example, encouraging polygyny. Why is that? All I'll say, and I'm not going to put this label on everyone, but there are certain general trends. For example, you go to any one of these paid seminars, right? Or you go to some sort of talk where there's a donation dinner kind of thing, yeah? The money is coming from women most of the time.
Yeah.
The students of these courses are mostly women, yeah? So if I now say things that women are not going to like, what do you think is going to happen to my money? That's one kind of trend. The other trend is that the government institutions or whatever in the country that these people are based, they may, find it objectionable talking about some things in a frank Islamic manner, The other thing, though, which is a legit thing, is that maybe they're thinking like the du'at, they're thinking, well, I keep hearing about men beating their wives, men not providing for their wives. So why am I then going to go and say, polygyny, that's the best? I'm like, damn, a lot of these husbands not doing a good job with one wife, so I don't know about encouraging them to get second wives. Yeah. So there's always this balancing act to play. But no doubt, bro, there's real problems, and that's where the movement comes from. But as Muslims, we always need to know to go back to the right source for the solution.
It's interesting you mentioned that actually about the domestic violence, for example. I think a lot of women have been way more empowered this day and age to speak up about those things. And what has also done, possibly, you have to look at this in an Islamic context. This is why I say this. Not because I'm comparing what problem is worse, but in an Islamic context, how bad is it for a woman to disobey her husband in an Islamic context? It's quite bad. If you actually look at the sources and look at the evidence, it's actually quite bad. But for a man to actually go to a sheikh and say, my wife is disobeying me, what can I do? Right? It probably doesn't happen that much. I wouldn't feel comfortable going to a sheikh.
A man would never do that, bro. Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So what then happens is the problems that are happening in a marriage are skewed.
Of course.
In terms of what the sheikh or the imam is exposed to.
What's out in the air, yeah.
Exactly. So what's out in the air is obviously, and rightfully so, the empowerment of women to speak about their husbands if they are abusing them. So the skewed, the sheikh, the scholar, whoever, is going to get possibly a skewed understanding of what the issue of society is right now, right? And that's why the commentary is going to be on that stuff. And that's why there is going to be this idea of men aren't capable of, polygamy or polygyny, and men aren't up to scratch, which is why we need to focus on them to stop beating their wives or whatever it is, or provide for them or whatever. On the same line, at least this is from my observation, I think there is a lot of men who talk the talk about polygyny, talk the talk about masculinity, about being a man and stuff, but then basic things they are neglecting, which goes back to the performance thing. You know, being a father, not really there. Spending on their family or spending time with their family or whatever, it's not really there, you know. I consider you, not to praise you to your face, but I consider you as a very masculine man. However, the values that you have, the family values that you have, the time where you put your time and energy is actually, you're doing more action than you are talking. You're not online commenting about women all the time and spending all your energy like complaining about women or whatever. No, you probably spend a lot of time with your kids, and you're probably at home a lot of the time, in the sense that you're looking after and being part of that tarbiyah, right? But I think for a lot of guys, they want their traditional benefits without the traditional expenditure in that sense. Like they want the benefits of that old school kind of traditional lifestyle, but they're not ready to make the traditional sacrifices that are required. So you'll find a lot of guys, and I see it all the time, bro, like married men that are just every day out with the lads, every day out with the lads. What was that, darling? No, you're not even darling, bro. Forget the darling, bro. Do you know what I mean? What's for dinner? You get me? What have you made? You get me? You know? Stuff like that, man. And it does kind of grind my gears a bit. And then they'll comment on you and like you're not man enough because you want to go home and you want to spend time with your wife or the kids or whatever. So and I think this is the same for women as well. I think I saw a commentary on a video, I can't remember who did it, about how a lot of Muslim feminists want the traditional benefits of Islam. So his money's my money and my money's my money and all that stuff, and the mahar and this and that, and I don't have to lift a finger and all of that nonsense. Well, it's not all nonsense, but you know what I mean. Used in that context, it can be. Yeah. But at the same time, not make the traditional sacrifices that go hand in hand with that. So what you've got is like a clock, bro, that is meant to work like clockwork, but actually it's just a couple of cogs and nothing's turning because we just got pieces of things, but not the whole.
The gears are like stuck in each other.
This is it, bro. Yeah. I've got the gear of like, oh yeah, my I want a wife that cooks and cleans and raises kids, but I'm not going to put the gear in of I'm going to provide for them, I'm going to be there for them, I'm going to make sure I'm there for the tarbiyah, I'm going to engage with them and whatever, and therefore nothing moves. And the same with a woman, bro. You want a woman that has that financial independence and everything that is hers belongs to her and whatever, which is in Islam, and you find that in Islam. But at the same time, the serving of the family, the serving of the husband, let's say it how it is, and the obedience towards the husband, which we say how it is, doesn't really exist. So that cog doesn't move either.
Yes. And but both. Like an example, if you like, of these things you just mentioned is, I think about this, if I was to say encourage someone to marry someone from quote unquote back home, what I feel like I need to tell them, like if they grew up in the West, for example, I would tell them that, okay, you're going to probably find a woman who obeys you, who's happy to be a homemaker, and she'll be respectful of you, right? But, she probably would not expect to ever have to leave the house, right? So anytime you do shopping, you're doing it. Anytime you're paying bills, you're doing it. Anytime you want to, save up for a house, blah, blah, blah. If she happens to have money, she's not going to give you nothing. And she doesn't consider that to be bad. That's just, why would I? Like, he's a man. Why am I giving him money? It's the opposite, I should.
There's a lot of guys that don't expect that, the discomfort of, like, it doesn't sit with me to ask for anyone for money, okay? But there are men that will just, without blinking, without whatever, they will say, oh, I need some money to pay this, or I need some money to pay that, to their wives, right? And that's one aspect of it. Like, that's one example. Once again, it's just like, where are you going to play your cards right in that sense? Like, be what you're about fully, and don't just take the bits that sound nice.
I think this is the difference between I would say organic masculinity and performance masculinity. Organic masculinity is like, I don't know, it depends what family and stuff you come from, but what I would say, my uncles, or grandfather, well, their generation, what they had, it was organic. Because why? Because it was passed down from father to son, how to kind of arrange your family, how to organize your family, what you are responsible for, what you're not responsible for. But now, and we must say this, of course, because it's a big deal here, the lack of connection to fathers, whether your parents are divorced, whether your dad died, whether your dad lived with you but was distant, any of these, that is causing men to have no clear direction here. And therefore they're looking for, okay, where do I go? How do I perform to be a man? Because I was not organically shown.
And there was also societal and cultural sort of do's and don'ts, unwritten rules of conduct that would kind of guide people in those kind of group sort of settings, right? But when you've fractured societies like we have now, and there isn't much, do you know what? Even in Masajid, akhi, I'm sure in the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you would visibly see more interactions between men and women in the masjid and stuff, and how to do that. But now we've got the blocking off of that. You don't know how a man acts with his wife or his family or whatever, because you don't get to see even hints of it. And I'm not saying at the time of the Prophet ﷺ it was all there for show, but I'm saying like there were shared spaces more than there are now in religious settings, right? So there was times when the women would come and speak to the Prophet ﷺ, and he would answer them, and then you'd see the conduct there, right? But if a woman has to have a meeting with a sheikh about something, that's a private thing. Let's put that away to the side. Men and women would pray in the same spaces, so you would see, before the prayer or after the prayer, how they would conduct each other and how they would engage with each other with respect and with the proper ihtiram, so to speak. Now a lot of our spaces are separate, and then that void gets filled in with what people think should be done. There's people that go to marriage meetings, bro, and oh my God, if I could just get started on this subject, I wouldn't end, bro. But
sounds like a good episode.
Oh, bro, because obviously I'm now married, I'm older, I've got sisters, I've got siblings, whatever you want to call it. I now am being more and more exposed to the side of men coming and speaking to me about my sisters, or men coming and asking me to speak to my wife about
I hope they don't
friend,
listen to the podcast.
No, but even an example, someone might come to me, or someone might come to my wife, a woman might come to my wife and want to speak. Do you understand? Basically, we become a conduit for those kind of things sometimes, right? Yeah. And I'm like, I could be like, oh, this guy's great. Yeah, I know this guy. Or, I've heard of this guy. He's really good or whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. He's a brilliant guy. And then it will just break down. And you're like, why did it break down? And then you find out why it broke down. I'm like, what the hell? Why would he say that? Why would, do you understand? Things like this, bro. And I am flabbergasted sometimes, because I do think sometimes men just don't know how to speak to women, or they don't know what women want, and vice versa. I think I haven't seen it that much with women because maybe I haven't had that kind of example, but there are some men, bro, that just don't have a clue, and it's the expectations are through the roof of what they want in a woman, because generally you're going to ask that question, oh, what would you want in a wife? But then the performance is just not the right script. You're playing a wrong movie, bro. We're trying to flip and do Gladiator over here, and you're playing Fast and Furious or something. You've completely different movie, right? Yeah. So I am a bit do these guys not observe the relationship between their mother and father, or maybe that doesn't exist, or maybe it's lacking there or something?
Yes. That's definitely an issue, bro. Yeah. Role models in terms of parents, that's a huge area in which we learn how to treat a wife or a potential wife, what we expect from a wife or a potential wife. That's a huge area. But found myself, I think we mentioned this before, when I got married, I was just literally copying my dad without even realizing.
But my dad, and just to give an example, my dad, he's two different people in Tunisia and in the UK.
All right.
Not in a huge way, but it shows you how much culture and location can play in your behavior, right? I saw way more of my dad in the UK than I would in Tunisia, but because I learned more about masculinity whilst I was with him in Tunisia. Because in Tunisia, he would take me out. It's all right, we're going to go out. We need to go and do this and this. And he's got so many errands to do and so many people to meet and so all these kind of business side of things. And I think a lot of it is because of the culture. Because in Tunisia, you don't expect the woman to go out and do all of these important things that need to be done. You know, the shopping, he would do that. In the UK, either one of them could do the shopping, my mum or my dad, because it's kind of socially acceptable for a woman to go to Tesco's, right? You know, it's not an issue. But like for my dad, he'd be like, no, he's going to go to the market or whatever and get the stuff and come back. And he would be always coming home with bags of shopping or whatever. So even an environment can actually play a big part. Absolutely. And I think when that environment is lacking, it's like, where do you throw the darts? Where do you aim? Like, how do you perform in that particular way? Yeah, I'll tell you what though, like sometimes just abiding by Islam in general can promote that kind of behavior. Like, you know, I'll give you an example. My wife, she wears niqab, etc. She is no doubt, and she'll share it herself, no doubt experienced so much abuse, you know, racial abuse and stuff, Islamophobic abuse, just being out and about. Because of that then puts me in a position where I feel like, you know, I don't want you going out on your own. If I can go out and fulfill that goal or whatever we need to do, or that shopping list or whatever, I'm doing it, right? And if you need to go out, we're going to try and make it so it's a day that I'm available to go out with you, right? And obviously there's a need there for independence and stuff, and obviously I'm not going to say no if she wants to go out on her own. However, every time she does that, she won't, well, not every time, but a lot of times she'll come back and say, oh, this guy did this, or this person said this to me, whatever. And once again, it reignites that flame in me, like, nah, okay, next time I'm going to be there. I'm not going to, do you know what I mean? Like, to the extent, bro, and, you know, she won't mind me sharing, but like, one time, just down here, bro, walking down the street with my son, so with Suleiman, and some guy just starts shouting stuff at her. And I'm just like, how? Like with my son as well, bro, like my little 4-year-old boy, and then it just puts you in that kind of, you know, that kind of I want to protect my family kind of mode, and you know, I did see red a bit, and I wanted to go out there and deal, but then obviously that would have been silly, but it puts you back in that place. Now, any man who doesn't have that, then I'd say, where are your kind of priorities lying? Like, where is your ghira in that sense? But then a woman may feel uncomfortable and then rely on the man a bit more, and that's kind of where the status quo should be anyway, really, in terms of the outside world is the male territory, because men are best placed to defend themselves. I've never really had anyone, you know, step to me like that outside. But then the women, and I'm sure a lot of Muslim women, get it all the time. So, yeah, it just shows you basically, if you're wearing those symbols of Islam, you're trying to practice Islam fully, you naturally kind of fall into those places. And I think ultimately, going back to borrowing from Red Pill or borrowing from Stoicism, whatever, take all of that with a pinch of salt. And yeah, I have taken deep dives into some of these movements and these books and stuff. But it doesn't provide you the long-lasting, you know, attitude towards your religion and your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it does with a true Muslim source or the Quran and Sunnah, right? That's where you kind of just go back to, you default back to that, because that's where the true barakah lies. It doesn't lie in, you know, Ryan Holiday's book on this and that, or Jordan Peterson or whatever. It might be good to, or it might be nice to borrow some stuff from there, or like just to translate stuff. But at the end of the day, all that stuff is a translation of, or part of that stuff is a translation of stuff that already exists in our deen. All right. So when I hit something in the book of ego is the enemy, you know, killing your ego and stuff, I'm like, oh, you know what? That sounds like getting rid of your nefs, right? And your desire. Yeah, that's so cool. Look at this book. Buy this book, right? This is amazing. I mean, you should read this book. Actually, I could have just gone and read the Quran and found the verse. You know? So I'm like looking for Islam in all these other things, when actually it's, you know, the Quran is 100%. Why do I have to find the 1% in a Stoicism book? Yeah.
I think some of the things we're saying sounds harsh to the brothers who, like we're saying, they're dissatisfied. Yeah, it sounds harsh, but this is the thing. Yeah, the red pill guys, the red pill Muslims, they're calling you to victimhood. That's what I feel. Yeah,
if you're making a day in day out effort, if your YouTube channel is that, you're dissatisfied, because until you're satisfied, you can stop talking about it. But if your whole career online is this stuff, you know, and you know what, maybe even we fall into it a lot, because maybe I am somewhere dissatisfied with society in a way, because Mind Heist, we always talk about this stuff. So actually, I have to go introspective and think, where are our dissatisfactions and why do we keep bringing up this topic? And, you know, you wrote a book on masculinity, so you could say the same thing. You could say, oh, maybe I'm dissatisfied in a particular way about something. What is it? And I think
am dissatisfied. Yeah.
I think for me and you, at least I can speak for myself, we've got sons. So it's our I'm like, oh, I don't know how to raise a son. I don't have brothers. I haven't got that area. Like, so I do explore that kind of thing from that perspective, because I want to be the dad they need so that they can be the men that is required of them to be. You yourself may have similar sort of interests from that perspective. But for the guys that don't have kids, and for the guys that are just angry online, yeah, maybe there's a dissatisfaction there. You know?
No, there is, but I'm saying that if you're that guy, yeah, you've got two routes, and one is much easier than the other one, yeah. So one route is blame all your problems, yeah. Find something to blame that on, okay. In this case, it's women and the feminist agenda, yeah. Blame everything on that and take no responsibility for it yourself, yeah. That's one route. The other route is to blame yourself, take responsibility, and try and improve yourself and be the best person you can be, and then tawakkal ala Allah for whatever happens in life. Yeah. And it's much, much more attractive to go with the first one. And that's why you find people, veering that way. And I get it, but I would just say that being a victim is like the least masculine thing to do. And the second thing is it won't give you success. Like, you have dissatisfaction, yeah. Women, maybe you feel like there's no one to marry, or women have too high demands for marriage, or whatever your issue is.
Yeah.
Feeding into this victim mindset, and that won't help you. That won't help you. But looking at what Allah wants from you will make you into the best man. It'll make you the most attractive man to the right woman. And then whatever Allah writes for you, inshallah, you're going to get married, you're going to have a good marriage. Inshallah.
Inshallah. There is I think it was either Sahabi, or he mentioned how the effects of his sins, and I could be completely paraphrasing here, he would see the effects of his sins in his riding beast, and he would see the effects of his sins in his wife. He would see that the things that he's deficient in would then affect everything around him. So like, it could be something as simple as like, you know what, I don't know, you start listening to music today, right? And then suddenly a day goes by or whatever, and everything around you starts falling apart. Things are just not going right. Things that, you know what I mean? All these little things, and you've got to go back. It could be anything, it could be any sin, right? It's like what you've said. If you can purify yourself to that extent where you can't even, like, if someone said to you, oh, what sin have you committed today? You can't even like think of it. You can't. Do you know what I mean? That's how difficult it is for you. And I think we can all achieve that. Because I think for most of us, if you were to say, obviously don't answer, but if you were to say, oh, what sin have you committed today? Straight away, you'd probably think of something that you did wrong, right? But I think we can get to a level where you have to think about it, and actually, if you've had to think about it, how good must your life be going? Because really, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, like, paraphrasing, obviously, all, the hardships we go through are because of our own selves in that sense. We are punished on the earth, and we're punished in the next life for some of the stuff that we do to ourselves. It comes from ourselves, a lot of it.
I always remember a sheikh said that the default is to assume that problems in your life is from your sins.
Yes.
It may be that Allah wants to elevate you by testing you. It may be He wants to purify you through hardship in the dunya, so in the akhirah you don't get punished. But the default is, like he quoted Aisha, saying that, when we would, I think, get ill, we would assume it's because of a sin we did.
Yes.
That's what they would assume is. Yeah.
Absolutely. And actually, when you default to that, you automatically then get elevated, because you are blaming yourself, realizing what the solution is just to worship Allah correctly and to stay away from sins, and then in that way you'd be elevated bi'idhnillah, so it's a win-win situation in that sense. But if you start going the other way, like, oh, why is Allah punishing me? I didn't do anything wrong. Oh, who are you to say that? Yeah.
I mean, look, bro, what are good women? If you wanted, even, I don't recommend it, if you wanted to spend a lot of your focus and attention on attracting women, then you would literally just do what Islam tells you to do, what Allah tells you to, right? You would become very disciplined by avoiding sins, lowering your gaze, going out and earning a living for your family and for your future family. Like, everything that Allah's telling you to do, that actually, for the right woman, obviously some women won't find that attractive, but we don't really want them anyway. But for the right woman, she would find that very attractive. But you don't do it for the women, you do it for Allah. And when you please Allah, then Allah will bring the whole dunya to you.
Do you not to make this conversation longer than it needs to be, but going back to like the polygyny issue, right?
Yeah.
That takes up a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
Like if you were to say red pill Muslim, I would say probably that's the number one thing they're talking about. If not, they're probably complaining about mahr. But then again, I don't know, because I feel like you have to get quite late in the stage of trying to marry someone to then start talking about mahr. Maybe that's me, maybe other people, that's the first thing they say. Hey, nice to meet you, what's your mahr? But no, with the polygyny thing, like my concern is that a lot of it is misplaced kind of dissatisfaction again. If it's coming from a married person, then is it coming from a place of dissatisfaction with his current marriage? Do they also understand really and internalize the need to be just and kind of be a man for all of those people? So all of those wives, for example, if you were to have 4 wives, the same kind of standard that you are trying to uphold, and we spoke about the right kind of performance, not the wrong kind of performance. Are you capable and prepared to do that for 4 people? Do you understand and internalize what that is? Or are you looking at marriage the same way that somebody would look at like a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship? Because there are Muslims that talk about the nikah, unfortunately, in that lowly way, which is really sad. Some people consider the nikah as a very because it's so easy and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy, it is almost like being in a relationship and you go live in your house, I live in mine and whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that if you agree with that. But then if that's what you're after and that's what you're trying to take advantage of, it goes back to what we were saying about dismissing the sacrifices that are necessary, not even sacrifices, but fulfilling your obligation and your duty just to also attain the equilibrium there, have the same benefits as well. But you just want the benefits without the putting in the work, right? And I do see the brothers that definitely talk about polygyny a lot. I see a lot of dissatisfaction there. I see a lot of misunderstanding there. I remember hearing a brother once say to me, he said to me, there's a website apparently called secondwife.com. He's like, oh yeah, a lot of the women on there, they're divorcees anyway. They don't even want to be with the husband. They just want, they want a disconnect there. They don't want, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like they want more of a relationship as opposed to and then that's what the people that speak about it the most tend to be those kind of people, at least in my perspective of what I've seen. So in my head, I'm thinking, there's a big misunderstanding here of what that means. And is this why people are so vocal about wanting to reinstate the normal or normalize polygyny again? Is it because they've conceptualized it as a kind of halal dating kind of thing? I don't know. What do you think? Have you come across that? Or have I completely gone over your head with that concept?
I know what you mean. And it could be that, when your first marriage is it's the first marriage, isn't it? It's like very, it's kind of, it's new and it's kind of, I don't know if the right word, sacred kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I can imagine how the second or third or fourth marriage could be a lot more kind of easygoing. You could be easygoing with it. I can understand that. And that could lead to people dropping standards maybe in terms of their conduct. I don't know. I can understand how that could happen, yeah.
I do feel like, you know what? Going back to Mehdi Tijani, it was the only video I saw which was on this topic, and it was, I think, and I could be completely wrong, but I think it was something along the lines of he was answering a question. Someone was like, "Why do men want to marry more than one wife?"
Yeah,
and there are always those traditional answers online of like, this is the benefit to society and this and that, and look at all these social ills that get rid. But he very much wanted to cut through the mustard and say it's because of their sex drive. Men have a really high sex drive, and that's basically the number one thing. And anybody telling you otherwise is lying to you. Like the priority and the main reason. And you know what? I think that is a reason why a lot of men do talk about it. I think men talk about it because there is that dissatisfaction there. And I think men talk about it because they have more to offer in that kind of field, so to speak, right? but because of that, you do ignore, and the people do ignore the responsibility that comes with it. Ultimately, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to squash. I'm not trying to mute, that discussion. I'm not trying to mute the polygyny talk, because actually, when I think out loud, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like I'm just once again muting the talk again. I'm not doing that, but actually, what I'm saying is, hey, talk it, walk it. If you're going to talk it, remember what it means. Because what I'm trying to say is, like, right now, this house, this family, I've got everything I'm responsible for. Imagine if I was to copy and paste that somewhere else. Could I be double the man I am right now? That's the way I think of it.
I think that's a high standard.
but I feel like that's the bar that at least I interpret from the Quran and Sunnah, right? At least, but then again, society is different now, and I'm not saying just because society is different. It's just the places we live and can you maintain that kind of standard for everyone?
No, you can maintain equality, but equality in terms of exactly what you're doing now times 2, that might be too high of a bar to set. Because
I'm not even saying economically, bro. I'm not even saying that, because that's maybe
I
separate.
know. I was even thinking, like, if you have more than one wife, you might just be fed up of one at one time. For let's say 1 week, 1 week you're kind of fed up of one, which means then you treat the other one better, and then you're kind of in trouble, isn't it? So that's the juggling act you're talking about.
Of course, and I think you always juggle. Look, if you were to do that, you would always be juggling anyway. No one's perfect. So I think the aim is to try your best, like shoot for the stars, and then hit the moon. If you're hitting the moon, then you've done quite well.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of guys aren't really thinking about that at all. They're not thinking about how high the bar must be raised. They're just thinking about who would accept it, right? They're not thinking about can I fulfill my obligations in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're thinking, if I could find somebody that would accept it, that'd be great. And that's why, like, a lot of marriage talks and stuff, they talk about, would you ever accept another wife? Or would you allow me to accept to get another wife, or whatever? That's like a shart, isn't it? That's a condition at the beginning that people talk about in those marriage talks. And why is that so? It's because they want to know if especially if the guy's asking it, would you accept me to have another wife or whatever? They want to know because they want to know from day dot. So it shows you that maybe it's not even a dissatisfaction thing, It's just they know within themselves that that's what they want.
I mean, the guys that actually mention that when they're meeting a potential wife, I think they're quite serious. I wouldn't say that they're the ones talking about it publicly,
What about the woman that asks that?
The woman that asks, would you want another wife?
Because I feel like that's probably more
They're
prevalent.
just scared, isn't it? They're just scared of the potential of that happening. And they just want to, like, cover themselves, innit? Right. But, I want to be clear, like, I've had conversations even with older, more mature men about this, and we kind of were talking through different issues amongst Muslims, and we did come to the conclusion that, some form of polygyny needs to happen. Like, it's very important. It could really help a lot. So I'm not, like, against it or even against like encouraging it or whatever. But this is the thing, maybe the discussion is monopolized by two kinds of people. Guys that don't even have one wife, where it's like that might just be in the domain of fantasy, if you like. And then the other one is the guys who might have more than one wife, and they use that to have, alpha male points and to perform, and they're only public about it in order to be like, look, I'm like higher up in the hierarchy than you guys because I've got wives that accept that, whereas, that's where it would be nice to have more of a, the mainstream du'at actually talk about it, but we don't have that, and it's left to maybe these two kind of people to do it.
You're right. And I think there's been a shift in some people that are a bit more open about it if they consider it a necessary kind of a solution to a lot of problems. But I've observed it, I've just come across stuff or come across situations where I'm like, hey, that's your solution, but none of you would ever accept that. So, carry on trying to figure it out, right?
I mean, maybe that's the truth as well. It's like, okay, he keeps talking about having multiple wives, but he hasn't got another wife. Why is that? Whereas a lot of the other things, if I tell everyone, make Toba, do Toba every day, you don't know if I do tawbah every day. So it doesn't seem hypocritical. I remember Daniel Hakikaju, he was doing a live stream, I think, and someone asked questions about polygyny, and then the live stream was with his wife, I think.
Oh,
and then they're like, so bro, like, why are you not married to a second wife?
Yeah.
That was awkward.
Then again, that, you know what, that let's put things where they should be. I mean, it would always be awkward. There is always going to be that jealousy there, regardless, right? Yeah. So for us to live in a fantasy land and just assume that all women are going to just one day wake up and be okay with it, and that's what's going to solve the world's problems, it's not that. But at the same time, there is going to have to be a point blank, black and white acceptance of, hey, this is Quran, Sunnah, and this is, you know, this is halal, and even in some cases it's encouraged. You know, some ulama would view those verses in the Quran and consider that as an encouragement to marry more than one person first and foremost. That is the automatic, the first step, and if you can't, then marry only one, because that's why it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it like that, and that's obviously you can interpret it like that by, you know, obviously through the ulama that did so. It's interesting, bro. I didn't think we'd go so deep into this side of the discussion. But hey, red pill, it is what it is. Look, what I do want to say is ultimately this is like a Western, I say Western, but this is like this doesn't exist in like rural Muslim world, generally speaking. You know, people know their place there, generally speaking. Maybe in the big cities and the bourgeoisie kind of areas.
Bourgeoisie.
Yeah. You know, and I've seen them, bro. I've driven through the Algerian bourgeoisie neighborhoods. Tunisia, same thing, you know. Everywhere has got those rich, liberal, you know, kind of Western influenced neighborhoods. But like you go to like the rural areas, bro, in lots of Muslim countries, they just slap you around the head to come talking about this stuff because they know already, like, this is normal to them. What are you talking about? Why do you have to dissect it? But because the reason why we talk about it so much is because we are, in a sense, victims, quote unquote, of a society that has definitely changed so much from the norm of what man and woman should be like and what. So we have to talk our ways through it and navigate through it. But yeah, it is funny, man. You go to these rural areas and stuff, and just everything just works like butter. Like everybody knows their place, you know. No, don't sit there. That's where the men are going to sit. No. Women come and sit in this room, you know. Oh, we got to do this and get this ready. And then the men same. Like you don't just walk into some house without knocking or whatever. Like all these kind of rules and regulations that are just anyway.
Well, this is the chaos of not having role models, you could say.
Yeah.
Whether it's fathers, not just fathers though, but having a whole society as your role model in terms of regulating your interactions with people.
Yeah.
And you know, bro, how many people that I speak to, it still surprises me today for some reason. Like most brothers I speak to in the UK, they've never been to like Pakistan or wherever they're originally from. They've never been. And so it's like they've never seen what a normal Muslim society looks like, right? So they have no kind of example in that. And then maybe they're a bit disconnected from their dad, so they don't have an example with that. And so where are they going to go for their example, you know?
I think that's what, you hit the nail on the head there. Exposure to those kind of societies, especially in rural areas. And I come from a rural area in Tunisia, so that's why I speak like that. But, you know, when I found my wife, etc., and I got to know her background and stuff, and I knew that she'd lived abroad in Algeria for a bit, and I saw the way that the men, especially in her family, conducted herself, and how women in the family interacted with the men, you know, and that level of respect there, and all these sort of traditional values. And they were a lot stronger than I'd ever had in my family, because it's just me and my dad, really, my family. So it's not really. I didn't have a lot of examples. You know, my wife has a lot of uncles and stuff, so I was seeing it at all angles. You know, I'd sit there and I'd observe, and I was like, "Yo, this is awesome," you know. And then trying to replicate that can be tough when you haven't grown up like that. But because, alhamdulillah, the Quran and Sunnah are so clear, when you can't reinforce it with just empty words, you can reinforce it with Quran and Sunnah. And I think that's why it's important to study that. And And we also need to be aware that we do see the Quran and Sunnah sometimes through a particular lens. You know, the feminists may use the Quran and Sunnah in a particular way to justify some things. The red pill guys might use it to justify other things. You've got to learn to read and look at it objectively. And not just pick out certain parts like, oh, I don't know about this narration, how authentic it is, but like, was it Umar radiallahu anhu? Somebody said that, you know, he's like a kitten at home and a lion outside or something along those lines. And it's something I've heard, you know, I don't know how authentic that is, where that's come from, if it even is a thing, but let's just say hypothetically it was a thing. You're taking that little part, but you're not taking the whole story of who Umar was as an entire individual. You know, the Prophet ﷺ sharing a miswak with his wife, that's cute, for example. That's really romantic and stuff. But is that all you're picking out? Are you picking out just those bits that align with your romantic ideals, or are you picking out the bits of, you know, the multiple marriages, the political alliances that were formed through marriage, this kind of thing, right? You don't just pick and choose. You take it as it is, the whole pie.
ادخل في الإسلام في السلمي, right? ادخل في السلمي كافة. Enter into Islam fully. Yeah, bro. So this came from an email, didn't it? So if you want an episode dedicated to your email, go to mindhouspodcast.com now.
Email us what you think the red pill movement is. Who is more right? Was it a means interpretation, or was it my Christian fundamentalist interpretation? Because I can't figure it out still. I'm a bit like, and
bro,
even those starter packs were all quite varied.
They were, yeah. Bro, go to the original source. You know, when you want to know like what Shias believe, you go to their books, innit?
I don't need to know what they believe.
So go to the books of Red Pill, and you'll find out. But yeah, bro, I love this episode. Very, very good, and it's kind of a precursor, inshallah, to like the book and all of that. And actually, having said that, so yeah, if you want to contact us, go to mindhouspodcast.com and do all of that. But you know what, bro? I think, you know, I want to speak to more men. So if you're like 18 to 30 and you're a man and you like live in the West, then just check the link in the description and book a time with me. We'll just have a quick chat. I just kind of want to learn about what's going on the street for what happens after the book, inshallah.
I'm going to book under a fake name. I'm going to come into the live call like this. I'm going to say hello.
Bro, your voice is unmistakable.
But like, my name is Ilyas Ahmed, and I am...
Bro, I'll know you from the yellow hoodie.
No, what are you talking about?
Okay, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Bye. Assalamu alaikum.